our severe weather threat. You can see this wide area of severe weather. The threat is still something that we're still monitoring into the overnight hours, right? This is not anything that's going to happen during the daylight hours. This is well away from us, but it's something we need to pay close attention to after midnight here. And that's one of the main things. I'll put this back on, and you can text your questions here. I don't have the computer up necessarily. I do think I could probably actually get it up over here. So I should be able to get it to where you can text your questions as well. Let me double check. I'll do that here as a few more people join the stream. We're talking about that potential here for severe weather. I'll put this back on, get me out of the way. You can see the core of where the severe weather threat still remains well off to our west, and I don't think that's going to change at all. I do think there are a couple of things to think about when we're talking about that portion of our severe weather, but in terms of what's going on right now, that's where the core of the severe weather is right now as we continue to focus on what's happening over the next several hours. I really think that, for the most part, we're going to be dealing with, hey, does this arrive at, what time does this arrive? Does this arrive at, 10 o'clock? Does it arrive at 11? How quickly does this line move? And to me, I think that's what's really important for us here as we're looking at this. I'm logging in so I can make sure I get your text questions, and we'll go through along this as well. This is kind of what we do here, man. We're just going on with the fly. No severe weather yet today, but I'm going to get dialed in here. Now you guys can take a look at what's happening here. And all right, now we're back online. Thanks for joining me. Now I'm back on here as we are looking ahead. We're looking ahead to your questions on Facebook. We're looking ahead to your questions on the text line. What I want to pay attention to specifically is this is a system, as we look off to the southwest, that has been responsible for when these storms developed. And honestly, we had a tornado with the storm in Oklahoma City. And you can see even at this hour, look at the convection and development of storms even at this hour. This is 9:15. This just kind of tells you how things are settling in. And this is just the last 3 hours. As you look at what's going on. The last 12 hours, look at that storm right there in northern Oklahoma. That was actually responsible for a tornado that was on the ground and a significant tornado. And the problem with some of this stuff here and why we're mentioning it is I don't think we're going to get big tornadoes like they had in Oklahoma or have the opportunity for in Oklahoma, but this is a storm that moved through overnight. So it's tough for you to get warnings. That's what we're looking forward to today is the fact that we have that potential here. And I want to point that out here as you watch this, where this went and what it has brought to us in terms of cloud coverage. Honestly, we've cleared out pretty nicely. Let's look at our temperatures here. And let's look at the setup and ingredients we have for today. I want you to enjoy the day. Today is dry. It's fine. It's 70 degrees already, okay? I mean, it is warming up real nicely. Honestly, I don't think we're going to have a problem reaching 80 degrees today. I think that's part of it. And you'll also look at what is out west. And I point this out from a standpoint of, let's look at the features here. Let's look here. You've got this, we have 40s here, we got 60s here, we got 50s here. Well, let's look at this from a standpoint of what this means for us in terms of, what this means for us in terms of, what this map does and what are the features going to do for us. And I just generally kind of do this because it's a little bit easier. We can look at the surface analysis here through a different map right now. And I'm going to turn this back to this one. This is kind of gives you a better idea of what is going on. I can probably click this a little easier this way. And, to me, this is what is important for us. I think I do have to do this on the vMix here. Yeah. It always tries to log me out. You can see, honestly, what's going on. The big story is the fact that we have this cold front that's off to the northwest. Bear with me for a second. It always logs me out when I'm trying to move on with things and try to show you guys some cooler stuff as well. Let me back out of this. We'll go to this part of it. There we go. A little easier when I can do it over here. Surface maps. I just want to show you what is in play here for us because I think that's really important for us at this hour. As we look at some of the stuff it kind of gives you a better idea of what we're dealing with here when I add it on here. So this is how we do things on the fly. And I know you guys, sometimes if you're watching these, you don't mind, and maybe it kind of gives you an idea of, how much stuff we're looking at a daily basis on some of this stuff here. And let's see, I should be able to play this. I can kind of get this browser up, and it gives you an idea of where some of this stuff is. Should be able to get it right there. So as I put this on a full screen and I can show you exactly what's going on, this is why it's important to try to do this quickly. And I'm just kind of do it when I'm thinking about it here. This gives us an idea of what is happening in terms of our positioning, right? So you have this area right here. You have this low and this cold front and this dry line of air right here, right? So I can draw this on my normal map, but it's a little easier to just pull it up this way, right? So you have a couple of different features here that we can look at, right? So this is the low that's going to be kind of responsible for working its way this direction. You have this cold front, which obviously storms will develop along that as well. We're on the warm side of the warm front, but you also have this dry line of air that's to the south. And I can drag this up just a little bit to where you can see this. There are two features as well. This dry line of air is going to work its way across Oklahoma, and that's where one set of storms is going to develop. And then you have this part of it that will be to the north. Those are the two areas that we're going to look at for storm development. Now, I think this one would be faster, so that's why we're looking ahead to the possibility of that developing first. So I'll pull this back out and show you where we are now in terms of our temperatures, because as we're looking ahead, this is what's happening, right? We have temps in the 60s, but now you see where that feature is. There are going to be two sets of areas where storm develop here and to our south, right? So the rest of the afternoon, we might see an isolated shower, but I do think that temperatures are going to work their way close to 80 degrees in the next few hours. Mid to upper 70s, we have a slight chance for an isolated storm. The day is dry, but I'm looking ahead to after 11 o'clock and then through Saturday morning. We'll look ahead to that possibility as we look at strong wind, large hail, and even a brief tornado that's possible ahead as well. That's what we're looking at from a main aspect of the setup and how things are going to come together. But I want to look at what's happening specifically here, because like I mentioned, as you look at our temperatures, now you see this dry air that's in place here. That's all associated with this low that's here, and as that lifts north, that is where one of the areas is going to form and develop the potential for severe weather. And then the secondary area, which actually has a greater threat for tornadoes to the south. Now, I think that area may move ahead of us a little quicker later on in the day, and that's why we have the severe weather threat, which I said the core of it is off to the west. That stretches from Omaha all the way to northern Texas and in central Kansas, and you'll see where most of that is. Now, that doesn't include our area. A lot of it has to do with the timing and just the way the ingredients are set up. But as I zoom in, you can see, and we're going to get another update at around 11 or 11:30, what you'll see is from Herman to Rolla, this is an area that we're still pretty much in that slight risk for severe weather. This time of the day, usually on day 1 and day 2, from the Storm Prediction Center, we can get some of these breakdowns of exactly what the risks are. You'll see where a 10% tornado risk is. That's from Springfield, Branson, south. Now, this does include some of our area as we kind of zoom in, and you can see, as I just kind of thumb through this a little bit, Rolla, Branson, I mean, these are areas that, we're starting to see the better opportunity for severe weather is to the southwest and west, and a lot of it has to do with the timing. It logs me out every time I want to go back and forth. That's okay. So this is where the wide area of a tornado threat is, right? This is where the core is from Branson, northern Arkansas, stuff like that, right? Northern Texas, central Oklahoma. But I do have questions about how those storms, when they develop, when they move to the northwest, I know that includes portions of Rolla, Cuba, Salem, and areas to the north, right? I think the general thing is how will it hold together and what those storms will look like. There's also a wind risk overall, which is about a 15% wind risk for the potential for 60 plus mile an hour wind at any given point here. And we also look at where the core of the hail is, and that still should be off to the west where that enhanced risk is. That's where they're getting 2-inch plus hail. We're not going to see anything like that. We will get some hail, but I don't think it's going to be quite the large hail. But one thing that I want to point out is look at 11 o'clock at night. This is the most recent update here, and from our recent Futurecast, and you're able to see that this is where we start to have a line of the leading edge of those storms that settles in. Now, as I just kind of slowly thumb through this, I want to pay attention to what the timestamps are. Look at 12:30. We're starting to see storms that fire up out ahead of that. Now, Will these storms be severe? Will they take advantage of all the instability that we gained during the day? That remains to be seen. It's going to be plenty moist. And we also have a pretty strong backing of some wind along the atmosphere, just above the atmosphere, driving in moisture. And also, we have some pretty good wind directional change. And I think after 1 o'clock in the morning, I think this is the storm that I would watch because it's a complex that probably had a history of a tornado that developed through the area. And so that's one of the things that we'll watch here as we look ahead. Now, through 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, how does this look? This is going to be very key, because if this doesn't become severe, well, that's okay. That what that may do is kind of cool the atmosphere down, settle things down, and then this line of storms behind it is not quite as severe. This look at Futurecast still brings it at a pretty rapid pace, and I think it could be even sooner than that as well. These are things that are bear watching here over the course of the next several hours, because I think it's really important as we look to see at some point, I think we'll see that risk die down, but the leading edge of this storm may produce some of those brief spin-up tornadoes if the things all set up as well. But if they don't, and the first storms are not don't knock any of it off, then honestly, we're going to run into a couple of different scenarios. And that's what I kind of talked about here as we throughout the morning. There are a couple of scenarios that could really bust the forecast and have no problems at all in the overnight, other than some pretty good thunderstorms, right? So those are the two things that I want to pay attention to here as we look ahead, because to me, that is what we're looking at the moment, right? You have two scenarios. Scenario number one, we limit our instability, and those early storms don't do much for us, right? There's not as much of a problem anymore where we have, those storms limit our instability. The severe threat would fade in that case. Now, scenario number two, that's where those early storms could be severe, but they don't limit instability. And then that other line is another round of just straight line wind and maybe a brief tornado. Those are all things that are possible, but I don't think that we're going to be able to see that play out until we understand exactly what the storms to the west look like, their development, and their speed. They should be moving at a pretty good pace here at this point, to me. So that's the way I see it at the moment, to be honest with you. And I still think our same threats are going to be in play for us ahead. So like I said, there are no specific, hey, that my threat's a little bit better, but the better threat is still, to me, to the west. The other thing I want to mention here is I do think that we're going to see another opportunity for severe weather on Tuesday. So we will continue to keep you posted about that. That's our next set of weather impact alert days, but I'm still monitoring the trends between 11 to 6 a.m. for our severe weather impacts as well. And like I said, we'll look ahead to that. Now, let me see if I can check with anybody with any questions. I know we got Show Me St. Louis coming up in the next 15 minutes. And I'll tell you what, I'll be live streaming with Lance for updates. Let's check in what is happening at the moment. Let's double check on, see what, if anybody has texted the line real quick so we can check what is happening there. Let's check in and try to answer some of you guys' questions. Thanks for following along as we look ahead. Should Highland, Illinois be worried about, what should Highland, Illinois be worried about? Daniel sent that message in at 654. Thanks, Daniel. Daniel, I think Highland, Illinois should just be prepared for something around 3 or 4 in the morning if we're going to see that, right? So we'll try to buzz you about something that's going to happen. The further east you go, the trend is for weakening storms. However, I do think that we're going to see storms throughout the area. Let me pop this back on and kind of show you where that is here in Highland, because I think that, in my opinion, while Futurecast is telling me that it's going to look a certain way, these things, just from doing this long enough, these things change. And here's what happens. This line of storms moves through at 1 or 2 in the morning, and it may not be severe. This could be just a good line of thunderstorms. And what that's going to do is really take away all the energy. And in March, it's harder for us to find that energy to get things in the right symmetry all the time. It happens, right? We have plenty of storms in March, right? But the more things have to line up correctly in March than perhaps they would in May, because it's just not as hot. The sun angle is not as high. So we'll see how that goes. Sometimes those storms move through quickly, it rains, and then we don't have a problem. But this particular look at Futurecast wants to bring this line in a little bit later on, and that could be something that we monitor at daybreak as well. These are all things we're taking a close look at ahead. So that's one thing. Thanks for the question, Daniel. as well. Let's take a look at the next one. What are the chances of a tornado touching down in St. Charles? Really, from a statistical standpoint, right now, you're still looking at a 2% chance, which is very low, right? In terms of the scope of some of these other events. And I don't think you should be worried. I don't want anybody to be worried. This is not a significant outbreak by any stretch of the imagination right now. But what it is sometimes we don't get these things overnight where, this is where we are from a statistical standpoint, right? First and foremost, any big tornado that's going to happen or any outbreak is in this area in the orange, right? If you're watching and any of the questions are regarding that, I haven't got to them all yet, but this is where the core of the tornado outbreak is. In our area, and even some of the edge of our area, because I know some of you guys watch in Central Missouri, and we appreciate that here. This is the highest risk, 5% is, this is still obviously very low risk, but any risk for a tornado is there. The green risk anywhere in our area, which is a good majority of our area, right? Most of us are under the 2% risk. That's a low threat, and that deems usually those little brief, weak spin-up tornadoes on the leading edge. Now, they may last 5 minutes or less, right? Could get the sirens going overnight, and we're going to try to warn you and have you up to date on the 5+ app here, but that's, to me, what we have to watch out for, right? Those are the brief tornadoes, but because it's overnight, you may not be paying attention, and that's where a lot of these problems occur. So we just want to get ahead of this. I don't want you to be worried about any of those things. So good question. Thanks for that. No problem. We are always ready to help you. Good. That was 314422. That kind of answered your question as well. You had a question about that as well. 618-335. That is from Mount Vernon. And I know I appreciate the question from Mount Vernon. I always try to make sure that we're following along for you guys, because I know if you guys aren't watching, even though you're kind of on the fringe of our TV viewing area, a lot of you guys watch on the app, and we try to make sure we keep you posted. Early hours tomorrow morning. I don't think anything happens in Mount Vernon until 3 or 4 in the morning. So this could be very early on Saturday for you. So that's where we are with what's going on in Mount Vernon. So I do think that you have the possibility there, but it will be on the early side in that regard as well. Let's double check to see if I've got any messages on Facebook right now. Okay, Austin asks, is Maryland Heights going to see some gusty winds and tornadoes tonight, or is it still a possibility? Yeah, Maryland Heights still has that possibility. I'm going to turn off the tornado risk for that. Yeah, Maryland Heights still has that possibility, Austin. I'm getting to some of your guys' questions here on Facebook. We still have the possibility, right? I think, like I said, the core of the severe weather threat is in this direction because of the origin of it, and really just kind of what we're dealing with in terms of the timing. Around sunset, where do those storms race? How do they push together? That's the number one thing we're watching. Christy asked, are the overnight temps going to be real warm to help intensify? Yeah, we're going to stay around 70 degrees, and it's very humid as well. The wind is up. That also is a factor, not only the wind at the surface, but above the surface. It's going to be transporting some moisture as well. Joseph asked, a lot of strong winds or mostly rain events. Yeah, there could be. The wind, I think, to me, is the main thing that's going to get. Even if we don't get a tornado, you could get a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust somewhere very easily. Should Belleville be worried about hail or wind and tornadoes? I think all three are possible. I wouldn't want you to be worried. I just want you to be aware because this is happening overnight. Like I said, we'll be live on the app. I'm going to try to go take a nap here after I do Show Me St. Louis here in the next 20 minutes. And I'll be back with Lance, and Tracy will have you covered at noon. Let me double check to make sure I don't have any more questions as we get closer to that. So that's where we are in terms of our severe threat right now. Like I said, don't be concerned, just be prepared. I don't think this is a widespread severe outbreak, but we'll see several severe thunderstorm warnings if everything lines up correctly and we take advantage of this. This could happen. Like I said, you get scenario number 2, you get scenario number 1 where those early storms move through. It's late at night. We take all the energy out of it. And guess what? We just have a few thunderstorms with a random severe thunderstorm warning or 2, and it's not a huge deal. That could be very well in play. This is something we're monitoring. And I think the only way you know this is watching how the storms develop and materialize out west and see how they come together and what they're doing. That's kind of what we're taking advantage of. My hunch is leading toward the fact that we're going to see severe weather in the region, right? It's going to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a tornado or 2 that's brief, right? So regardless, I think there are going to be some wind overnight. So we'll keep you posted about that. And we will have updates throughout the day on our 5 Plus app. And we will see you a little bit later on. I will leave you with this Futurecast as I close the stream and get ready for Show Me St. Louis. And that's kind of where we are with it right now. I'm going to post this, and then I'm going to go right here. We'll try to answer your questions offline. And